Let me show you something.
Up until now, Jeff Bezos is said to have spent only 1 day a week at Blue Origin. But that is about to change. For 27 years, Bezos has been steering what is now the world's largest online retailer. But he recently announced he'll be stepping down as Amazon's CEO later this year, writing to staff, "When you have a responsibility like that, it's hard to put attention on anything else." He'll transition to executive chair of the company's board, while turning his focus toward higher pursuits.
Blue Origin has never been a hobby or a side project for Jeff Bezos. Space is where his heart is.
He's been obsessed with it since he was a little boy.
You don't choose your passions choose you.
His high school girlfriend once told reporters the reason he wanted to get rich off Amazon was so he'd have the cash to pursue his dream. Yet his rocket venture lags far behind SpaceX. Elon Musk's aerospace firm has already sent astronauts to the International Space Station, launched satellites for a new internet service, and is developing the giant Starship to send people to Mars one day. In comparison, Blue Origin still hasn't even orbited the Earth, despite being 2 years older. Its new Shepard launch vehicle has flown more than a dozen times, but it only goes to the edge of space, with the plan of providing a fun suborbital flight for tourists in the near future. Musk has called Bezos too old and his rocket company too slow to achieve anything great. But freed from his duties at Amazon, Blue Origin will most certainly get a substantial boost from the billionaire who knows a thing or two about building a successful company. All eyes are now on New Glenn. The heavy lift rocket is supposed to reach orbit for the first time this year. It's partially reusable. The first stage booster lands back on Earth, just like SpaceX's Falcon 9 does. New Glenn already has contracts to launch internet satellites for the Canadian telecommunications company Telesat and the UK's OneWeb. With Bezos' business acumen, Blue Origin is hoping to go after more customers and could even overcome its late start to help bring Amazon's internet satellites into service. Project Kuiper could give SpaceX's Starlink a run for its money. Both are trying to beam high-speed internet to remote places where it's currently too expensive or simply unavailable. SpaceX is clearly well ahead. Over 1,000 of its satellites are already in space, with a planned 12,000-strong constellation at the very least, whereas Kuiper still exists only on paper.
Despite Amazon not having launched a single satellite yet, the rivalry is heating up between Bezos and Musk.
When Amazon and other companies opposed SpaceX's request to move its satellites to a lower altitude than originally planned, Musk tweeted, "It does not serve the public to hamstring Starlink," pointing out Kuiper is at best several years away from operation. Amazon fired back, accusing SpaceX of trying to smother competition. We don't know when Kuiper will launch, but half of its 3,000 satellites have to be up and running within 6 years to meet licensing requirements. When it does get off the ground, it could expand Amazon's empire by becoming the middleman for getting data into its successful cloud service, AWS.
Getting satellites into orbit is just a step into space for Bezos. He wants to go much farther.
We're not going back to the moon to visit, we're going back to the moon to stay.
This is a full-scale prototype of the descent stage of Blue Origin's lunar lander, which is based off the Blue Moon lander the company had previously been working on. NASA will choose either this vehicle or SpaceX's modified Starship, or the entry from Dynetics to send American astronauts back to the moon for the first time in nearly 50 years. The government agency was supposed to narrow the race down to 2 by the end of February. That has now been extended to the end of April, as the Biden administration reevaluates the 2024 target for a moon landing. Bezos appears pretty confident his ride will be chosen, declaring on Instagram that Blue Origin's BE-7 rocket engine will be the one to take the first woman to the surface of the moon. NASA handed Blue Origin over $500 million to develop the lander, a considerable chunk of change. But for the most part, Bezos has been paying out of his own pocket to keep his rocket company afloat, funneling $1 billion worth of Amazon stock toward it every year. So securing juicy contracts could make Blue Origin less dependent on his own personal wealth, and perhaps erase some of the disappointment of losing out to United Launch Alliance and SpaceX for a U.S. Air Force contract worth billions.
With the funding, Bezos has a bigger long-term vision for humans in space.
Imagine moving off the planet into enormous space colonies holding 1 million people or more.
Here's the International Space Station for scale.
He believes Blue Origin is his most important work because he fears Earth's resources will run out one day.
It would lead for the first time to where your grandchildren and their grandchildren would have worse lives than you.
There is one place in space he doesn't want to go. He's not a fan of Musk's plan to build a city on Mars, pointing out Mount Everest would be a garden paradise, in his words, compared to the freezing red planet. But while the SpaceX CEO has a timeline for sending the first humans to Mars, 2026 is his latest estimate. It will be well into the future before Bezos' big dream has a shot of coming true. Blue Origin may liken itself to the tortoise in the fable where slow and steady beats the speedy hare. However, some believe this tortoise is just too slow. By leaving the top job at Amazon and focusing more energy on his true passion, Bezos wants to prove them wrong. But it's not a sprint. The race to space requires both mental and physical endurance. Bezos made headlines a couple of years ago by looking remarkably fitter than in the past. Staying in shape can be hard, especially as we spend more time indoors. If you want to lose weight or be healthier, my sponsor Noom uses psychology to help you understand how your mind works in order to change your habits. And it only takes 5 to 10 minutes a day. Noom groups food into 3 colors and recommends how much of each would be ideal for you, so you can still eat your favorite meals. For added motivation, a personal coach can provide feedback, plus you get access to a support group, and you can pay what you can afford for a trial period of Noom. I recently filled out the questionnaire so Noom can predict when I'll reach my ideal weight while on their program. To get started, just head to the link in my description. Thanks for watching Muse Think. I'm Cindy Palm.